Every Palestinian from Gaza I know has lost multiple relatives. But, two Catholic women were shot in the church courtyard by snipers seconds after stepping out of the door. So our churches were bombed. Every Catholic hospital was bombed. Every Catholic school was bombed. There were no tunnels under there. There was no Hamas there.
Our neighbor's choice.
Well, I'm back with my good friend Jason Jones. He's a human rights activist, the founder of the Vulnerable People Project, a filmmaker, and all-around good guy. And he loves talking about Rene Girard and Christianity and applying it to things around the world. And he puts his money where his mouth is because he's always over and somewhere around the world trying to help people. Right now, you've been doing a lot with Gaza, right, Jason?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have a bigger mouth than I have a bank account, but I put as much money as I can to where my mouth goes.
Yeah. Well, we always like having you on because you're getting into the mix of things. And unfortunately, a few weeks ago, I saw your notice that a couple of your aid workers passed away. Can you tell us what happened? I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's been a tough couple of years. We've had a lot of casualties. And in July, we lost a contractor that was guarding a seminary for us in Nigeria who was shot and killed protecting seminarians. And then I guess now almost 2 weeks ago, we were preparing something I had worked long and hard on for almost a year to get a lot of baby formula into Gaza. We got 5,000 cans into Gaza to a warehouse that we had for about 3 months. There were several tons of food in the warehouse. And, but hours after the baby formula reached the warehouse, the day before we were to begin distributing it, a direct hit from the IDF completely obliterated the warehouse.
Wow.
Killing 2 employees and destroying tons of food, cooking oil, and 5,000 cans of baby formula.
That's horrible. So why did they hit your warehouse?
Well, NPR, a journalist, Jane Arraf, interviewed me for NPR and it aired on NPR. She asked the IDF if they were aware of bombing our warehouse. And they said we're very much aware of the Vulnerable People Project, but we're not aware that we hit their warehouse. So I have to think, we're at a point now where either this is the most brazen ethnic cleansing in the history of the world because all eyes are on it. And obviously, you're not just rolling into Gaza with baby formula. The IDF knew our truck. They knew the truck's destination. And is it possible? Yeah. I mean, war zones are chaotic, that there was not good communication and our building was destroyed without knowledge of what was in it. Yeah.
Is it right next to a Hamas depot or something? I mean, what the heck?
Well, 95% of the buildings in Gaza were flattened. So the Hamas has a lot of depots. When the Hamas boogeyman has become so ridiculous. You have less than 40,000 fighters at the start of the war. 95% of the buildings have been flattened. I don't even want to guess on how many civilians died. The numbers range from 50,000 to 500,000. Every Palestinian from Gaza I know has lost multiple relatives. But, 2 Catholic women were shot in the church courtyard by snipers seconds after stepping out of the door. So our churches were bombed. Every Catholic hospital was bombed. Every Catholic school was bombed. There were no tunnels under there. There was no Hamas there. They're not starving in Gaza because of Hamas. I did just a detailed analysis. It would be 150 container. The IDF says that 75% of the aid meant for Gaza is being stolen. But let's just say it was it was 25%, not 75%, because 75% is obviously ridiculous. 75% of the aid coming into Gaza would be 450 container trucks a month, huge semis that Hamas would have to steal, move, hide, and then guard the food in the trucks under the nose of one of the most sophisticated militaries in the world with the backing of the most sophisticated military in the history of the world. That's not happening. Even if it was just 10% of the calories, that's 150% of the calories of 1,000 calorie per day diet. We're looking at 150 trucks. It's just impossible. Yet there's no evidence of this. Is Hamas stealing food? 100%. Are other gangs and thugs stealing food? 100%. We have had no food stolen. I've had food and aid robbed from us in Africa and Sudan, and we've had aid taken from us in Ukraine. We've never had any aid taken from us in Gaza. Last week, while going to deliver water to a church, the truck was stopped, and people who were dying began to beg for water and kind of surround the truck, and the truck drivers gave them. And so by the time we made it to church, about half the water was gone. But to me, that's not stealing water. And then VPP responded by going there the next day with 2 big water trucks. I think we 8,000 liters. So we delivered 8,000 liters the next day to that neighborhood in response to the desperation that our drivers saw while they were passing through. So no, I think this is just, it's convenient to reflexively absolve Israel of any guilt.
Right. You have a new piece out on your Substack, the jasonjonesshow.substack.com.
Yes, sir.
Notes from a Christian caught between the tribes and Gaza's shadow. You seem pretty pro-Palestinian to me, but yet you're saying, no, you're not, huh? What's going on?
Well, I know what I'm saying is Palestinian. I don't know what that means even. Does it make one pro-Palestinian to say we shouldn't ethnically cleanse Palestinians? You know what I mean?
From the media's
perspective, does it make me a Zionist?
Yeah.
Does it make me a Zionist to say that I think that the civilian hostages should be released?
It's probably Israel that's in charge of that decision,
Probably, does it make me a Zionist that my heart breaks that IDF soldiers are offing themselves at an unprecedented rate because they're shattered by the trauma of being cogs in the machinery of a genocide? I wrote this because I really just want to punch a lot of people in the face, to be honest. It was like a spiritual exercise to write the Substack. There are people who are my friends who I know that post the most shallow, bizarre propaganda on their pages. One on right now that I'm going to probably make a little video documentary responding to. It's like, people accuse the Palestinians accuse other people of stealing from them, but they have nothing to steal because all they've ever invented was their fake history. Have you seen this meme?
Yeah.
And that's so bizarre. That is so bizarre. This kind of childish. When I was a kid, I grew up in the south side of Chicago, and the Nation of Islam had a newspaper called The Final Call. And you could buy a bag of fruits. You get like a couple apples and a banana and a pear or peach for like $1. And then you also get the newspaper. It was kind of the deal. So I would go buy these fruit bags and get the paper, and I'd go read the paper. So here I am, white boy, blonde hair, blue eyes, reading Minister Farrakhan's paper. And, they would collect every crime, anytime a white guy did anything against a black person or Jewish person did against a black person, would make it into the Final Call. And as a child, I remember thinking how obviously propagandistic this is, right? If you're calling the whole country for crimes and putting them in a weekly paper or whatever it was. And that's the kind of things I'm seeing now, where people will cherry pick events in history to paint a picture of who the Palestinian people are, and or to justify ethnic cleansing. You have Congressman Fine saying, drop from your home state of Florida, saying nuke Gaza. So I wrote this like stuck between tribes, because I do have friends that are spokespersons. I have a friend who's one of the kindest, gentlest, most beautiful human beings I've ever known. And he is the spokesperson for one of the most prestigious Zionist organizations in the world. I know Ambassador Huckabee. Ambassador Huckabee is someone who I always perceived as a good and holy man. And I'm coming from the position of someone who's not very good nor very holy. And Huckabee's the kind of guy that I could look to and admire and say, I wish I could be more like him. But then he's promoting such childish, banal rhetoric, propaganda to foment violence against an embattled people. So I wrote this to kind of just try to say, these are all the tribes that are involved. And it's hard to maneuver, right? It's really, really hard to maneuver.
Right. It's always hard to be nuanced in the middle of something like this, isn't it?
Well, and I don't want to even be nuanced. Like, I want to be forcefully communicate the truth. In fact, right before I went on the air with you, I asked my assistant to read it. I said, do I sound like a sanctimonious jerk here? I said, I think we're at this strange point in history where to just forcefully express the truth is to sound sanctimonious. I can even ask her, do I sound sanctimonious in that article, Rita? No. She says no. That's good. So thank you. That's
Jason Sanctimonious Jones.
I'm not going to fire her now. She said I'm not sanctimonious. She said I was sanctimonious. I'd fired her right here on the air.
Trump would say that you're very sanctimonious, Jason. You're very critical. You're very critical of my administration. You're not acknowledging all the wins that I've made for the Palestinians.
Oh, the wins. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Have you seen the people of Michigan that voted for me, Jason? They're very happy.
Yeah, I was a part of that. I'm ashamed to say I was a part of delivering. I campaigned for Trump in the Muslim and Middle Eastern Christian community with the hope that it would bring about an end to the genocide and the cleansing that the Biden administration so zealously supported. And here we are. But I'm sad that you read that and thought I was hedging on being pro-Palestinian. I want to end the ethnic cleansing and genocide. I want to see two states. I would like to advocate for a one-state solution, but that's just never going to happen. So I think we know what I hope comes out of this catastrophe is maybe three states. Maybe Israel needs to be divided even. I think that maybe we need a Palestinian state, and we need to defang Israel. I think we need to look at Israel the way we looked at Germany after World War II and say, how do we make sure this never happens again? Israel has had a policy of creating failed state, using the United States to create failed states around its borders for its security. We can just say that's an obvious fact. And to deny that is to deny the obvious. This strategy has been catastrophic for the people across the region. And so I think after this, not only do we need a Palestinian state, maybe we need a Palestinian state, a Jewish state, and one state that is like a one-state solution that is for Palestinians and Jews and Druze who want to live together, not an ethno-nationalist state, but as just people of a shared place. They can share a polity that works together for their common good. But I do think we need to defang Israel and limit its ability to cause such harm.
Well, you've got there's a news here that Axios reports that the U.S. State Department, Marco Rubio, has denied visas to Palestinian officials for the September United Nations General Assembly. And it violates the U.S. and UN agreement, which requires the U.S. to grant visas to UNGA delegations.
Yeah,
And
Marco Rubio is a monster, and Marco Rubio should have no future in politics.
yeah.
And I'm really
Why
almost
is he barring the Palestinian Authority officials? I mean, they're not Hamas. What's
they
going
have
on
nothing
here?
to do with Hamas. And what I'm going to tell you why, because the last thing they want is the Palestinian Authority to take over Gaza. Israel created Hamas, fueled Hamas, funded Hamas to weaken the Palestinian Authority. So the last thing they would want to see is the fruit of this catastrophe being a unified Palestinian state, because then you can get a Palestinian state. But I can care less what the state of Israel wants. We created it. Let's be honest. So we need a Palestinian state, period. I will never vote for any candidate for national office that does not support a Palestinian state. And I would never, and I really do think, and I'm going to be writing about this, I think we need maybe to, Israel needs to be cut in half. I think that we need to do something to defang Israel, and it also needs to be denuclearized, because we cannot have a nuclear armed country that so brazenly commits ethnic cleansing. They have demonstrated that they stole their nuclear weapons and technology from us. So they have demonstrated that they cannot be trusted.
Hey, they're part of our family. You can't steal from family members.
Is that what it is? That
It's
what
like
they say?
if your brother has
Is
like
that the line?
I'm just thinking it makes sense to me, doesn't it? They're
So
close to us. They're our
the
greatest
Palestinians
ally.
must be, and the Palestinians are their cousins, so they can steal their farms and their homes, and they can steal our churches.
So
Man, they're not a very good
borrow
family.
your brother's shovel, if you
with
borrow
family
your
like
brother's
this,
shovel, is that okay to use it? Just like nukes?
with family like this, who needs enemies? Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. Look,
Why was Kennedy trying to get AIPAC to register under FARA?
oh, because he was a horrible anti-Semite, don't you know? Yeah, obviously, I'm being sarcastic. There's this video trending now of an AIPAC-funded Jewish guy running for Congress, I guess, just downloading on the state of Israel for ethnic cleansing. And I think this is a real bellwether. This guy, whether he means it or not, whether he's sincere or not, this is the Gaza generation. Anyone under 30, the defining political event in their life was the live streaming of mass murder of women and children on their phones. And they will never, never, never forget nor forgive. And so any politician that has been on the wrong side of this catastrophe has no future in politics. I can promise you that. Maybe one.
Well, that basically takes out all of the MAGA administration.
Well, and I'm about to write an article that anyone who doesn't resign, like shortly, in protest of this catastrophe, is not eligible for my vote, period. Not one of them. Now, monsters like Rubio and Huckabee, they've been monstrous. J.D. Vance, whispers that he's heart is broken about what's happened in Gaza. We don't need whispers, Tulsi Gabbard, who's someone I greatly admire. I think she is doing a disservice to herself to continue on in this administration at this point. I know she's really committed to public service, and she'd probably be willing to sacrifice her political future to serve her country in the important role that she has now for the remainder of this administration. But I personally would like to see her resign in disgust.
That reminds me, you and Tulsi Gabbard were both at Ron Paul's birthday bash in Texas. Can you tell us what happened there? That's kind of a good story.
Yeah, I was there. Dave Smith was there. Tulsi was there. Tulsi gave a great speech. She was whisked in and out with security, and she had to I've noticed since she was 12, but they whisked her in and out with their security. And but it was a great bash. Dave Smith was there, and the great Scott Horton and the whole crew. And it just felt great to be in a room full of people that you agreed with on all the most important things in the world. And it was just such a cool thing. I had made a big banner with kids in Gaza. That week, all of our packages for hot meals, we wrapped in Happy Birthday Ron Paul packaging.
That's awesome.
And we made a banner with kids holding up their meals with Happy Birthday Ron Paul on it that we gave to Dr. Paul for his birthday. And Dave Smith ripped the banner from our hands, went running around, showing it to he says, "Is this real? Is this AI?" I'm like, "It's real." He ran to Scott Horton. He goes, "Scott, look at this." And Scott's like, "Jason's one of us. He's part of the team. You don't know Jason?"
That's
And
awesome.
to see Dave Smith so excited by the work that we do meant a lot, and
I saw Daniel McAdams and Ron Paul by the banner too, so I know they really
oh,
appreciated
Daniel
that.
McAdams he's one of my
Yeah.
heroes. Yeah, and he was there, and Dr. Paul was next to the banner, and it's great.
He
It's
was calling out America and government and U.S. funding of Hamas for decades. He was.
yeah. I
If we
mean,
had
look,
listened to Ron, none of that would have been happening. So many more kids would be alive right now in
you could
Gaza.
take every Islamist in America, I mean, in the world, every extremist from every extremist organization in the world, and you could fit them into like two small towns in America.
Yeah.
They're less than 200,000. ISIS, Al Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah, add them all up. And we've got this massive defense bill, and we're told that this is our greatest threat. Less than 200,000 poorly trained, poorly funded fanatics scattered across the world. We can't figure out how to deal with this without destroying countries and actually fomenting extremism and making it, creating nice habitats for extremist organizations to grow up. But the reality is the state of Israel would much rather have 1 million terrorists roaming the world than stable governments that could push back on them. So to have in Iraq, to have in Syria with armored divisions and artillery and rockets, that's not acceptable. So to turn the whole Middle East into rubble, that's the strategy. And we've been a useful idiot in that strategy. And in the post-Ottoman world, it's been a catastrophic century. We need a new Sykes-Picot, and the name shouldn't be French or English this time. We need a new agreement. We need a new way to have order. And really, the Trump administration, I think its great failure, and I'm going to be writing about this soon, is it's blowing up the rules-based order. It is clear that human rights and rules do not apply to the United States and its dear allies. So this will lead to a global rebellion. This will lead to the rise of a multipolar world with vicious competitors to the United States. And I think this is quite tragic. I want to live in a world with a rules-based order. And I don't want America to have peers like China and India and Russia. Right now, India is fomenting ethno-nationalist violence against Christians across the country.
And to your credit, you're one of the few conservatives in America that talks about that every day. A lot of the online right sloppily just lumps all Indians as one monolith and mocks them and racially, kicks them all the time in their little memes on Twitter. But you have been to your credit, one of the few people who takes care of the Indian, Christian, and other minorities who have been persecuted.
Dalit, my organization has a school for Dalit.
Yeah.
They're treated as subhumans. There are as many Dalits in India as there are Americans from the Mississippi River to the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow.
And they have effectively no rights or no dignity. The Brahmin class, and actually I wrote an article when the big H-1 visa brouhaha kicked off. This is really preferential treatment for the Brahmin class Indians.
Yeah.
So I wrote an op-ed saying, hey, I'm for H-1 visas for Indians, but only for Dalits and Christians and Muslims.
Yeah. Because
the Dalits, the Christians, and the Muslims are being brutalized in India right now. Yeah. But obviously, I don't think that would fly with India so much, would it?
Yeah, no, they're going with a different focus. And I like this dynamic camera you have. Is this OBS or something? OBS bot?
I don't know what this is, man. It's freaking.
Did you get a new computer? It follows you like this. Feels like The Office. Remember the TV show The Office?
Yeah, it does follow me. What's going on?
And it follows you when you went to the room. It feels like The Office, like the mockumentary style documentary where the guy gets up and he talks about Michael Scott quietly.
Yeah, I love that guy. Well, and here's
how do you get it to zoom in on that beautiful icon?
World? Like the guy from The Office?
Yeah.
Michael Scott?
Yeah.
Like Scott.
Oh my gosh. I had when the movie Horrible Bosses came out,
Yeah.
my employees at the time literally took the whole day off to go have lunch and watch that movie together. And I
Yeah.
thought, what does this mean? What does this mean, guys? And they said, well, you're insane and you walk around the office with nunchucks. Go see the movie. You'll understand.
Is it true that you walk around the office with nunchucks?
Ask Rita, do I walk around with nunchucks?
Yes, he shadow boxes.
Wow. No wonder Israel says they know all about.
Listen, okay, what else?
Project.
What else?
Oh,
Give us the dirt. You got to talk to we're on radio right now.
oh, okay. Well, yesterday we we're in office, which is an MMA gym, and Jason has his professional Muay Thai fighter friend come to train him. And I was just joking around, throwing punches. And he's like, oh, you actually have good form. And I told him it's because I watch Jason shadowbox while we're on important meeting calls. That's all he does, throw punches and kicks.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is watch Horrible Bosses. I'm in
I
that.
love this. I love this web camera's like intentionality. Like it'll zoom in on your face to get the reaction as she's saying the punchline of the story, and it's like really well thought out directorial, like use of camera work. I'm really impressed with this robot.
Humans are no longer needed.
Like it'll just zoom in on that ketchup stain on your shirt. Let's see. Oh, I'm just joking.
I like this shirt. This shirt is. I just ordered this shirt. It's from my old jiu-jitsu gym in Hawaii, Helson Gracie, and so I found it on eBay. It's from the I think early 2000s. I was trying to find one from the early 90s when I first training there, before cell phones and pagers and live stream genocides. Back in the good old days, genocides happened, and we didn't in the old days, we didn't get we didn't have the privilege of knowing of these genocides. They were happening, but we could just pay attention to baseball.
Yeah, but you know what, Jason? I think times are changing politically because the U.S. House with Republicans has just announced they're going to be investigating Wikipedia for anti-Israel bias.
Yeah, as if Wikipedia matters since the invention of ChatGPT. It's just insane. Well, I think what they mean by anti-Israel bias is telling the truth about the ethnic cleansing in Gaza.
Yeah.
That would bias one against the state of Israel for sure.
Well, Jason, so let me ask you again for the sake of context here, is there any possibility that perhaps the Catholic Church and Orthodox Church could do something more than what they're doing to stop this? I mean, is that a possibility?
It's easy for me to say. It's easy for when you're in the cheap seats,
Yeah.
And I always have to remind myself that I run a little infantry platoon with a Zodiac boat. And you're looking at the Catholic Church, which is an armada.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to tell the Holy Father what to do. I always wear my Chicago White Sox hat now, not because I'm a Sox fan, which I am, but also because it's the Pope's favorite team. I think.
All right. Well, don't talk about what the Holy Father would do. What would Jesus do? How about that? if Jesus had an armada.
Yeah, well, you evangelicals or whatever you are, Orthodox Protestants love to say that, but we have to remind ourselves Jesus is the second person of the Trinity, and I'm a Christian body of Christ, but I am not God.
But you're in Christ.
I think what would
you're in Christ?
Do? But I think a better question would be what am I called to do as a member of the mystical body of Christ? And Paul tells us that when one part of the body suffers, we should all suffer. And so I work aggressively to live in solidarity with the most vulnerable people in the world, including those in Gaza. And like today, we threw a Child's Day party in Gaza where we had clowns and music and food and shave ice and water and coloring and murals. If I were the Pope, probably.
That's in Gaza you did that?
Yeah, today. Mm-hmm.
How do you I'm sorry, I just got to understand. How do you logistically get clowns and everybody to show up for that when they just saw two of your guys get killed?
Yeah, well,
brother, how do you get people to sign up for that gig? Hey, I got a birthday gig for you. It's going to be in Gaza, right?
We're not going on to productionhub.com and hiring people. But these local folks who are art teachers and, there's 2 million people there. I think what's unique about the Vulnerable People Project model is that we work with the community we serve to serve the community. A lot of these Western NGOs, they have this like vacation resort spa idea of like service. Like, I'm going to go on a mission for 2 weeks and do medical work in Nigeria. There are nurses and doctors in Nigeria that you can write a check for the cost of your plane flight and this and that they could buy an ultrasound machine, and they could, buy a medicine to last the hospital for a year and blah, blah, blah. That's what we do. There are a lot of brilliant people we work in Sudan, we work in South Sudan, we work in Nigeria, Malawi, Afghanistan, Syria, Gaza. We hire locals. So there are a lot of very talented people inside of Gaza that we can employ who are clowns, who are musicians, who are art teachers, and we hire them.
So all that kind of stuff is still functioning in Gaza, even with all the rubble.
Well, there's people there, and they can go into the rubble and dig out their clown suit. They can dig in the rubble and pull out their ukulele. They're very smart, creative people. I don't need to send Josh from Calabasas to Gaza to do this work. I get these requests a lot, and I usually try to only fulfill them by offering people to do the really most dangerous stuff, and then they can't go all of a sudden. But
you only offer the Calabasas guys the hardest stuff.
Yeah, we got a landmine removal opportunities in the front lines in Ukraine. Oh no.
They probably drop their Starbucks cup right when they hear that.
Well, I do kind of get offended, and I get, again, sanctimonious. People are always coming to me like, hey, we want to send 1,000 rosaries into Gaza. They have rosaries. They've been Catholic since the first century. You know what they need? The bombs to stop falling on their head. You know what they need? Water. Or people like, hey, I've got 6 days. I'd like to volunteer for you. I'm like, great, you can come to Texas and stuff envelopes.
Wow.
No, I was thinking I could, and it's some kind of exciting thing. Yeah, can you tell I'm jaded? Yeah. But it's no, there's so much talent there that, there's everything we need in the world to serve the people in Gaza is there. What we just need is the bombs to stop falling. And the trucks to be, and aid to be let in. Not even aid, if the war ended, the economy could blossom.
Right. So you're not very optimistic about real change happening there, do you? Even if it's coming from ecclesiastical bodies.
I'm hopeful. I'm not optimistic at all, but I'm not pessimistic. I'm hopeful. To paraphrase G.K. Chesterton, do we have hope without hope? And I think the work at the Vulnerable People Project, and I always use this expression of my staff, is we have to be willing to walk in utter darkness for a long time.
Yeah. The film production side of things, I wanted to ask you, do you have a date on when your next production will be available for viewing, or is it going to be?
Oh yeah. Are you talking about my 2 new movies?
Yeah, tell us about that. What are
so
they
we
about?
have a movie called Mardasma. It's an Afghan ghost story that was shot in Iran by an Iranian dissident director. And we just were given, my assistant doesn't even know this, I was just alerted today. We began submitting it to film festivals, and the process for distribution, you do the festival circuit first. The first festival we submitted it to, I'm not allowed to say where it is yet. It's embargoed till September 22nd, but we were just accepted to what's called an Oscar Booster Film Festival. So this is a film festival that if you win, you will be front shelved for the Oscars. So that's important, as a filmmaker. And it's a beautiful film to look at the unintended consequences of the American occupation of Afghanistan and the failures.
Is there a trailer or something people can watch online? Is this a short film? Soon. Is this a full feature? Or...
No, it's a short film. We did this short film together because we're actually going to do a feature-length film. But I just wanted to see how it was to work together with this director. And then we did another short film, Hills Like White Elephants by Ernest Hemingway, that we just finished. And that will be going to festivals as well. It's a Hemingway story set in Spain in the early 1920s. We shot the film last summer. I was going back and forth to Gaza or to Egypt, where we were running trucks into Gaza and evacuating people out of Gaza. and then I'd go from Egypt to Spain, Spain to Egypt, Egypt to Spain. So it was like aid work, movie, aid work, back to the production site. And I'm very proud of this film. It's really realistic. You feel like you're with Hemingway and his first wife, Hadley Richardson, in Spain in the 20s. What's great is there's a drink in the film called what it was, Anís del Toro. And the locals didn't even believe it was real because they couldn't find it. But I said, no, I know Ernest Hemingway. That had to be a real drink. And it turns out they stopped making it like in 1930. And we were able to buy like the last known bottle of Anís del Toro in Spain for like less than $1,000. And I wanted the real bottle. And so they opened the bottle for when he ordered it. Wow. And they poured it. And so that was what was bottled in the 1920s. Our actor playing Hemingway drank last year. And then, of course, when we said cut, you know what I did? I grabbed the glass, and then I grabbed a bunch of glasses, and we all finished the bottle together. And it was really good. One of the perks of filmmaking.
What did it taste like? Haven't been like...
Well, it's got a mild licorice, and I don't like ouzo and drinks with licorice taste to it, but it was so mild. It was awesome. It was just awesome. Maybe I was just swept away by the nostalgia of it all.
So how did you get into a Hemingway project? How do you pick your projects that you're going to get involved with?
That's a good question. So I read this story, Hills Like White Elephants, at Leeward Community College in 1995 or 1994, I think. And I was so moved by it as a young student. I was always sort of had a overconfidence in myself. I took the book and I hopped on the number 52 Circle Island bus on Oahu, and I went to the University of Hawaii, and I went to the theater department, and I just started knocking on doors, and a professor opened the door, and I came in with the book and said, hey, I want to recruit local students in this department to help me make this play. Make this into a short film. And he, looked at the book and he researched. He said, no, young man, you're going to have to wait till 2022 for this book to go into the public domain before you can make it, or you're going to have to pay the Hemingway State a lot of money. So I just said to myself, note to self, I'm going to make this in 2022. And so in 2024, finally,
you had a reminder on your phone to say beep 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 beep. You can make that movie now.
I had a yellow. No. I knew I wanted to make this movie. I've been in film now for 25 years, but this film was always on my mind. And we made it, and I said to our investor, I said, wow, I really wish I could have made this film in 1995. And she said to me, yeah, but now you're an experienced filmmaker. Then you'd have been a kid with $10,000, Yeah. And so now, we shot in Spain on location, in a train station, cafe, in the part of Spain where this took place, with a Spanish crew and a Spanish cast. So,
was it difficult to get filming rights, permission to film and all that?
That's the job. It's always, it was difficult to find a location that we could use that was a historic site, because there are all sorts of rules around the preservation of historic sites. Like, we couldn't do anything to the outside of the train station, so we had to use digital painting. We could use plaster that we then removed, but there were challenges. But again, I wanted to make this as realistic as possible. And I wanted to honor Hadley Richardson and their son, Jack, because this is really the story of Hadley Richardson being pregnant with Jack and Ernest Hemingway wanting her to have an abortion. She didn't. And my uncle lived with Ernest Hemingway around, I think at the time he committed suicide. So there's that weird sort of family connection with the Hemingways between my family and his.
Why was your uncle living with him?
My uncle you probably heard of him. His name was Harrison Livingston. He passed away. He was an eccentric writer. He wrote High Treason 1 and High Treason 2, sort of the pioneer in the Kennedy assassination conspiracy theories. Harvard man, close to the Kennedy. He was very good friends with RFK. A hippie, not a hippie, but kind of like a kind of a hard left, 1960s kind of guy, eccentric. Alex Jones loves my uncle. Like a lot of people know my uncle. And when I say, Harrison Livingston was my uncle, they go, that makes sense. Of course he was.
Yeah. What about, so when do you have a project on the Gaza issue or the Palestinians?
We do. Yeah. We're developing a film called Betrayed with a Kiss. And it's a documentary on Christian Zionism in America.
Okay.
And we right now are having Christians in Gaza, like we're recording their responses in the war zone to like social media posts of prominent Christians. And one of my goals is that when this war ends, is to begin the campaign to end the war of anyone on the Christian right that supported it. I don't think that they deserve a place in the public square after this. And so I want to document what they're saying. And so when the enthusiasm, as Girard teaches us, goes away, and we have our little cathartic moment of slaughter, I want to wipe off the chessboard all of those who've advocated for this catastrophe.
You mean politically?
Politically,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to specify the slaughter thing.
Not Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I mean, they're slaughtering humans. And what I want to do is just wipe them off the chessboard politically.
Political relevance, yeah. You mentioned Netanyahu. He recently apparently has acknowledged the Armenian genocide. Are you pleased?
Yeah, I mean, no. Well, yeah, okay. Well, he acknowledged the genocide. Just refunded Azerbaijan ethnic cleansing of Artsakh. This is just a fact.
Yeah.
And they're stealing Armenian churches in Jerusalem today as we speak. So the Armenian genocide is continuing with Islamists in Israel kissing cousins, skipping down the street hand in hand, in the very same way that the state of Israel is partnering with Modi's government to brutalize Christians and other minorities in India.
Yeah. And
then you see the Zionists funding ethno-nationalism and racism in Europe.
Right.
It's a very gross game. And this is where, again, why I wrote my most recent article, Stuck Between Tribes. It's very uncomfortable for me because my whole life I've been considered some hard right guy, beyond the pale. So hard right, so conservative. I say I miss the days when I was the most reactionary bigot anyone ever met. And now all of a sudden I find myself queasy at sounding like Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
In a room full of lunatics advocating barbarism and promoting bigotry and hatred and prejudice. Look, what a strange world we live in when Nick Fuentes is like the voice of moderation against violence against brown people. What a weird world. And the moderate, decent, respectable folks are saying things like flatten Gaza, nuke Gaza, ethnically cleanse Gaza, send them to Sudan.
Well, they've been saying that. They've been saying that since after 9/11, so that moderates, Joe Lieberman and McCain and Romney and, Hillary, they've all been saying. So we've been living.
You're right. I'll never forget when Obama was slaughtering children and civilians across the world in his drone war. And then Mitt Romney's on the debate stage and Obama's asked a question on the drone war. And then Romney's asked a question. And he said, my only problem with it is he's not aggressive enough. And you're like, oh my gosh. Like, wow. Like you're going to take that position?
Yeah. Well, I want to leave with a note where people can find your work and get involved. But I wanted to ask you a personal question. Would you ever be interested in producing movies on the C.S. Lewis Space Trilogy? Wow.
Can I tell you what? Do you know how much I love the Space Trilogy? Which we should not call it the Space Trilogy. It's the Ransom Trilogy.
Okay.
C.S. Lewis would smack you in the face and poke you in the eyes. Do you know C.S. Lewis wrote the trilogy to stop getting people to use the word space? Did you know that?
No.
He wrote it.
Why did they use the one word that he wanted them to stop using to describe
because
it?
Screw tape never quits, man. I'll tell you what. Okay. It's the Heavens Trilogy, or the Ransom Trilogy, as Lewis called it, or the Heavens Trilogy. He wanted us to look up at night and see the heavens.
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis, when he looked up in the sky, he saw the sky the way pre-moderns did. And he thought heaven was out there and devils and angels and demons were up there. That's what he thought.
Yeah.
And so to him, those are the heavens. And I love, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I didn't read them till last year, and it just set my hair on fire because I don't like science fiction. And then you read it and you're like, wow, this isn't science fiction at all. This is reality. In fact, I mean, That Hideous Strength is about Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, maybe. It's crazy. I mean, really, there's an Elon Musk character. You couldn't, it's so obvious. Yeah. And Peter Thiel, and he's quote unquote a Girardian. I think he's an anti-Girardian. I've come to the conclusion that Peter Thiel is Girard in the inverse. That his funding of things like Facebook and Instagram were the weaponization and profiting off of the Girardian insight on mimesis. And then his AI technology that Israel uses is the perfection of the scapegoat mechanism.
I think he's sincere in his love for Rene Girard,
He should be. He's made him a billionaire. When I guarantee you, when that young Mark Zuckerberg shot across from Peter Thiel, it was Girard's words ringing in his head when he wrote that check.
Yeah.
Because he understood the power of social media because of Girard.
Yeah.
Okay. And his inability to rein in the use of his technology. I really do believe that it's Palantir's technology that is at fault for all of the civilian or all of the journalists. Most of the journalist deaths are the ridiculously high rate of journalism. And this is the most humane explanation. I believe that, what is the name of what is it called? I forget the name of the exact AI program right now. It's not Where's Daddy. It is Lavender. What Lavender does is it gives a credit score to everyone in Gaza. Well, if you're a journalist filing reports criticizing Israel, I think that it's just going to be sucked into this AI program. You're going to get a bad score. And then so when a military commander moves into a community and is looking for targets, unfortunately, I think you'll appear on the target list. And
so what do you have a credit score at Vulnerable People Project in this Palantir system?
Yeah, I look, when I see drones coming, I run, I hide. I run and hide.
Wow.
Look, I'm sure that my wife said when she met me 30 years ago that if she would have known my credit score at the time, she would not have continued dating me. So that credit score is better now, but I think my social credit score is probably worse.
You recently posted a video of a guy humming along to a drone sound. Tell me about that.
Oh my gosh, brother. Yeah, I was in DC last week, and I met with a high-ranking government official who told me that an Israeli official complained to him about me by name and said that Jason Jones is humanizing Palestinians with his propaganda. And I thought, what a genius. Like, how brilliant must I be to be able to humanize humans? Like, who could? And to me, that video was such an example of the humanity of the Palestinians. It was this one, and I've become close with Palestinians, and they're just the most beloved, beautiful community. I just love Palestinians. I love them. I love the community. I love their decency, their humanity, their kindness, their ability to forgive, which I wouldn't have any of that if I were in their shoes. And here is a man in a war zone, a music teacher teaching kids music, and he's using the drones as a musical instrument as he sings a song about Palestinian fortitude. And it's just one of these great, beautiful moments. I try to go to daily mass, which means I probably go once or twice a week if I'm lucky. And I went to mass today, barely, but made it. And I was embarrassed because I was still in shorts, but I had no choice or I was going to miss it. So I showed up to mass and daily mass in shorts. And the readings, the first reading was about how, God, just be a prophet and speak the words of truth to Judea, even though they're going to threaten you and kill you, and I have your back. And I was like, really, God, do you really have our back? You don't have the Palestinians back. And of course, then the gospel reading for today was John the Baptist getting his head lopped off. I was like, oh, there's God's answer. It's just because I have your back doesn't mean you're going to get your head lopped off. He's like, I have your back in the long run. I have your back in eternity, but we're called to speak the truth, even if it means we lose our head. I don't know where I'm going with that. Well, what did you ask me?
About that video with the drone guy.
Oh, but that's it. You know, when I saw that man as like a prophetic voice.
Yeah.
He was singing about Palestinian courage, and the Palestinians will still be here if you see the translation. It just doesn't mean he might not be there.
Yeah.
But he's just so kind. You know, he says, I love you guys. I miss you. The video, which went viral, was probably to some of his friends. He just made a video for his friends. He said, I love you. I miss you. And it was just, and that's where I'm like, man, this guy's such a good man. He's a better man than me. Like, these poor, beautiful people are living in, I don't know how they have the fortitude, because I can barely stand watching it.
Yeah.
How do they stand it? I can barely stand it anymore watching it. They're living it. And they're weathering living it better than I am watching it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I want to leave here with close to home. You have this horrible story about the Catholic school being shot up. Did you have any thoughts about that? You know, you're usually talking about foreign affairs, vulnerable people spots, but here it is in our own backyard now, right?
Yeah, well, you know, look, we're always vulnerable in our own communities. You know, we live in a broken society. This young person, I don't know what they were born, what they were becoming. I know they were one thing and becoming another thing. It always confuses me. I'm one of those guys you think is, you know, old guys you think is pretending he doesn't know what the heck you're talking about. I really don't know this gender transition nonsense. But, you know, to know how tormented this young person was, I, as a Catholic, believe it appears that they were demonically possessed.
Yeah.
Definitely riddled and addled by the drugs they were taking for their transition. And they regretted their transitioning. He even said, I wish I didn't propagandize myself. I think we've allowed fear to brutalize children. You know, you just gave me an article. Write this down and note. It's going to be my next article. We have allowed our fear of speaking the truth to brutalize children. So a decade ago, 5 years ago, you know, those of us who were speaking out against trans ideology were painted as homophobic or transphobic or bigots. We were like, just stop torturing, stop sexualizing, torturing, and mutilating children. Oh, you're a bigot. And then now we're like, stop bombing and starving children. Whoa, you're an anti-Semite. I don't care what you call me. I'm going to stand with children you are trying to brutalize, castrate, you know, flood with hormones and drugs, or bomb or starve. And so I think there is a connection. And I know a lot of people around the world are kind of mocking Americans' sorrow over what happened in Minnesota because of our apparent indifference from the outside to the slaughter of children in Gaza. And it is a bit interesting that the people who wail and moan when we suffer just chuckle and laugh at the suffering of other people. Mel Brooks said that a comedy is when you look out your window and you see someone fall through an open manhole cover and die. And a tragedy is when you stub your own toe. And well, it was a tragedy that happened in Minneapolis, but we're having people like, who was it? You know, all these politicians that went over to Israel and signed bombs with things like "finish them," Nikki Haley and others. It's barbarism without any skin in the game. They're shadow boxers that'll never step in a ring. They think they're Mike Tyson because they shadow box, but they will never step in a ring. And we have to see there are consequences to cowardice. There are consequences to the cowardice to protect our children from these ideologies that promote gender transition, abortion, sexualization of our children. And there are consequences to allowing our government to fuel the first live streamed ethnic cleansing in the history of the world. We dropped the first 2 atomic weapons on civilian cities. We have that medal, and we get the RBI with Israel gets the home run for the first live stream genocide. These are quite embarrassing truths. So those of us who are Christians, truly Christians, then we have to speak the truth when it's unpopular and let people call us what they will.
Well, let's leave it there. vulnerablepeopleproject.com, and also check out his show, The Jason Jones Show. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, my brother.
Control.